So these days, everyone is talking about US debt, the debt bomb, the debt ceiling. The US is struggling to repay the debt. So what is it all about the debt and how will it affect us as investors? So if you see, US debt is around $38.5 trillion, the same story. And the interest on this debt is around $980 billion, that is around $1 trillion. You should note that India's GDP is around $4 trillion and US just the interest payment is around 1/4, which is $1 trillion, which is a alarming thing. Who is holding this debt? So the debt of US is held by its own central bank, which is Federal Reserve, and then major stakeholders in this are Japan and China, and the central banks of other countries as well, and also the banks inside America. So because of this Trump tariff and other geopolitical stuff, US is losing interest of the investors, and also they are skeptical about the next probable decisions US is going to make, which will impact their economy. So the trust in US government and hence the US dollar has now become a question. And also how US takes debt. They just cannot print money. You already know from my earlier videos that the US dollar is not pegged to physical gold. So they just keep printing money. How can they print money? They will have to print money by selling bonds or so-called treasury bills or treasury bonds to the buyers. The buyers obviously China, Japan, India also have US dollar reserves. So the reserves of the central banks of various countries, how do they make it? They buy the bonds of US. So the US makes a bond, sells it at a coupon rate, telling that you give me this much money, I will repay you with the interest rate, which is called the coupon rate, and then after the maturity, I will return you back the money, and the bond gets closed. But then the issue here is that as the US economy is losing its credibility and also the US dollar is losing its shine, the demand for bonds is also going down. In fact, US and Japan is selling the already existing bonds. If they are selling bonds, how will US raise more money? So they have to repay the debt, so they don't have enough money. So to repay their debt, they have to print more money. So to print money, they have to again float bonds and sell it to other nations. Now majority, only US Fed is buying that, their own central bank, because others are not interested. In fact, they are selling the existing bonds. There is nobody to buy the bonds and the demand for the US treasury bills is going down. So how will they repay the debt? So debt ceiling is keeping on increasing and the debt bubble is increasing and their debt percentage or the debt burden is also increasing, exceeding $38.5 trillion, which is so huge. And also the US is having immense pressure to reduce the interest rate. So if they have to reduce interest rate, the inflation has to be in control, but the inflation is increasing. So inflation is increasing means they cannot reduce the interest rate. So if they're nothing, debt is also high, because if the interest rate are reduced, then they have to pay less interest for their debt. So this will be some console for them, but this is not happening. The interest rate they are unable to reduce, so the debt burden is keeping on increasing. So anytime this debt bubble can burst, the US can slip into a recession, an economic meltdown, and it can impact all other countries as well, because if US sneezes, the entire world gets cold. So that's including India. So this you should understand and be ready for a probable meltdown. Let me know your thought in the comment box. Happy investing.